Hi there, you're listening to the Bridal Beauty Business Podcast. This is a show all about the bridal hair and makeup business, from frequently asked questions about contracts and clients, to some serious debates on topics we seem to be divided about as industry professionals, and of course, interviews with our mentors and inspirations. Now, I don't have all the answers, nor do I pretend to, but what I am great at is asking questions and finding a tribe of like-minded individuals who are passionate about what they do, and they want to share and help others do the same. Today, we're diving in deep with Bridal Hair Couture by Katie to talk about the power of the consultation, or what some people refer to as the trial. Why do you need one? Should it be mandatory? What should you be asking? There is so much value in my chat with Katie, and I'm so excited for you to hear this one. Hello.
Hi.
It's nice to chat with you. Congratulations on the launch of your new course first. Thanks. Before anything else.
Thank you so much.
Are you excited for it?
I am. I'm really excited. I put a lot more work into this class this year. Well, not to say I didn't put work in the last one, but you learn every time you do a class. Okay, next time I'm going to do this, or I want to do that. And I always want to do something different. I don't want to repeat myself in anything. So it was a little stressful. But I'm just moving you around because I put a ring light on because the lighting in my basement is bad. I have to sit in my basement because my children are around.
Yeah, I figured 8 o'clock. I'm like, Coral's trying to go to bed right now. I figured your kids are going to be going to bed soon or running around upstairs.
Yeah.
So what do you think is been the biggest change from your last course to this course?
I'm simplifying. I'm not kind of doing the same bells and whistles that I did last year, some of the frills with the class, because I just found it ended up not really being important from what the feedback was from a lot of the students.
Yeah.
Some of the little elements. So I've just sort of tried to capture the meat of what I think is important when it comes to learning techniques and styles, and focusing more time and energy into that. Still keeping certain elements that I found students really loved about my class from last year, but this year I'm just switching some stuff up, and there's going to be some surprises too. Some things that students don't know is going to happen.
Well, I'm super excited because your last class was awesome. I was lucky I got to take it, and I can't even imagine how much better it's going to be if you're changing things up and putting more thought into it. So I'm excited. And you had a great first reaction to it as well, right?
Yeah, I did. I had a couple little, glitches, few little errors with dates. I put some wrong dates out and
oh no,
didn't realize, had a bunch of different things going on, because right now I'm kind of going through rebranding as well, and it was supposed to all be done at the same time, which is insane. I think I was a bit ambitious with that whole thing, but I'm getting a new website built, and so I've been trying to get that done, and obviously wanted to have the workshop ready for that at the same time so that I could launch it all at the same time. It didn't happen. So a few errors, but it's all been fixed. So I've quite literally been stuck to my iPad for the last 48 hours, just emailing everybody and trying to make sure everyone got all the right information and stuff. So, but it's good. It's all worth it.
I know. And the one thing I love that even though you were waiting to do the rebrand, you were waiting for the website, that you didn't hold off on launching the course. You just everyone goes back to progress over perfection. So you still did it, which is the biggest thing, because you could have held off.
I had to. Otherwise, artists were going to start banging down my door, because I was supposed to have it out 2 weeks ago. And
you're so overdue. I think you should have had it out last year. You're super overdue, but okay, 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Okay, I know we're short on time today, so I'm going to try to knock the frills off of my questions that I would usually ask you. But since we just got into talking,
I will stop you. I do have a little extra time because my husband got home.
Yes, so we have more than 20 minutes.
So we can take a little bit longer because he's up with the kids right now. So if you need to, it's all good.
All right, so let's tell the listeners who you are. How did you get into hair? Tell us about you and your story and how you started.
Okay, well, I kind of I didn't always know I wanted to do hair, but it did kind of, the passion for the industry kind of started when I was really young, but I didn't really know it. So I was probably around 10 years old, and my mom was really into you know, getting her hair done and all that sort of stuff. And I would always go with her to the salon. And there's this one salon she used to go to, and I would go along with her. And this stylist that she would see, Robert Terranova, I still remember his name. He was like so eccentric and like colorful and just a pleasure to be around. He reminded me of Prince. Like he was like that, you know, and I just remember being like really inspired every time I go in there and thinking that, you know, I want to be a part of this world. Like this looks like fun, you know, because everybody that worked in the salon were just really excited to be there, and they were creative, and it was just really cool. And this is back in the 90s. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I had this thing from a very young age, this passion for fashion. So I can remember my passion for fashion. So I remember my best friend and I just being obsessed with like 90s runway supermodels, you know, Claudia Schiffer, Cindy Crawford, Naomi Campbell. We would like save their pictures out of magazines and stick them on our walls. And it was sort of that combined with this exposure to this sort of hair industry, with my mom being so, you know, around that all the time, that I just started feeling like I really want to be a part of this industry in some way, the fashion industry. But I'm not somebody who likes to be in the spotlight or the front line. So I like the behind the scenes stuff. I like the idea of like creating something and putting it out there and seeing it up somewhere on a runway. And anyway, so that was on the back of my mind. But as I got into like high school and started thinking about my career, I was actually pursuing fashion design. I thought I would do that. And then I got into grade 10, and we had like work placement, which is like work experience, which they do in Australia in grade 10.
Yeah, they have that here too. I think we call it co-op. They do it in grade 10, grade 11, then they do it again in college.
Yeah, you just, for 2 weeks, you go and you work somewhere, and you get a bit of a sense of like what you might do when you leave school. So because I always sort of thought the hair industry was cool, like I'd really like to go and work in a salon. And where I lived at the time in Australia was a little country town, and there really wasn't much, you know, to choose from as far as like, especially with what I wanted to do. So I thought like, hey, hair's kind of the next best thing. So I'm going to go do that. So I managed to get some work experience at this one salon, and it was amazing. I mean, I was only really sweeping floors and like cleaning product shelves and, you know, packing up from the different clients who'd been in the salon and stuff like that. But I just loved the vibe, and I was just really inspired by what was going on and how these artists working in the salon were just had this confidence to sort of take someone and just transform them. And the reaction that, you know, the clients would have, like it was like this superpower.
I totally get that. I feel like everyone in the bridal industry or in the beauty industry is in it because of that reaction. Like there is something about that reaction that makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, I mean, it really inspired me. And then I guess before my co-op ended, I got offered a job.
What?
Yeah. So
you were grade 10 at the time.
Yeah, I was what? 16, 17. Yeah, 17. And, you know, I'm like, yeah. And at the time I hated school. And I'm like, this is so much more fun than school. So, you know, they said, well, why don't we put you on probation sort of thing and have you come in and you could do weekends and see what you think. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. My parents like the sound of that because they didn't really like the idea of me finishing school early.
Yeah.
Because in Australia you can actually, if you get a traineeship or apprenticeship, you can actually leave the end of grade 10. As long as you're doing like a further education, tertiary education. So I'm like, okay. So anyway, it kind of just, you know, unraveled into this full-time job. I left school, stayed working at this one place, and you know, I don't want to kind of tell you everything, but from then on I worked in a lot of different salons. I ended up finishing my apprenticeship. It's a 4-year apprenticeship in Australia before you actually get licensed. So I did my college, my 2 years of college, I got my certificate. You know, I was cutting and coloring and working in lots of different salons. And there was one particular salon, I ended up moving cities and I started working in this one place. And that was kind of when I started thinking, okay, I don't want to just be an in-salon hairstylist. It's boring. I love like clients and that, but the everyday stuff is just, you know, a little bit monotonous and it's a lot of hours on your feet. And for me, it just got bored very easily. And I'm like, I really want to do stuff that's more artistic, more edgy. So I started competing in a lot of competitions, a lot of editorial competitions in the hair industry, just through like product companies that, you know, when I worked in the salons that I worked in, you know, we would have access to all these different events that were going on through like Goldwell and KMS and all that. So, you know, I got more involved in the runway stuff as well. I did some fashion week stuff in Australia, behind the scenes stuff. And that just was like, I was in my zone. And that's kind of when I knew, I'm like, okay, I can't just do basic hair. I have to do something that involves, you know, something that's eye-catching, that people, they notice the hair when they see it. So, you know, and it wasn't really long after that whole career really started taking off and I was doing really well. Got some really great opportunities through, I came second in the country for a lights, camera, action competition, which was like a photographic competition for a style that I did.
Second in all of Australia?
Yeah.
That's
just
amazing.
This category. Yeah, it was just this competition that was running through Goldwell that I did, and I came
Goldwell isn't a nobody. Like, that's a big company name as well.
Yeah, but that was right at the time I met my husband. So he came over from Canada, and we met, and through my family, my sister actually married his cousin, and we ended up getting together, and, you know, my kind of career got put on hold. We, you know, before he ended up coming back to Canada, I found out I was expecting. So our son, Chris, is now 12. And so that sort of put like a pause on everything for me. I kind of leapt into motherhood at a very young age after I met Craig. And
how old were you then?
At that point, I was 24.
Okay.
So I was young, you know.
Yeah, not that young either. It depends on the culture. It's kind of in the middle there. When you said
true.
young, I'm like, were you 18? Were you 16? No.
Yeah,
24.
no,
Okay.
I think I was young in mine too, because, you know, it was the season of my life I was really having fun with my job, and I was, you know, enjoying all of that sort of stuff, right? So I had to grow up very fast because of that. And so, you know, everything kind of got put on hold for a bit, and I ended up coming to Canada. My husband and I had our daughter, and she's now 10. And then we decided to get married. We thought we better get married. So we got married, and then I was pregnant with my third, because I have 4 children. I was pregnant with Jonah, and that's when I started to really miss the industry, because I had been off work for quite a while. I was full-time at home at that point. My husband was working. And I was actually going to leave the industry. I was like, you know what? I don't want to do hair anymore. I was loving being a mom. You know, the full-time mom thing was great. But I think I got a little stir crazy at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of when Instagram and social media really exploded. You know, that's when it was sort of picking up. And I remember starting this Instagram account and started following hairstylists, and I started seeing these amazing hair artists starting up these beauty companies that just specialize in bridal. And I'm like, that's awesome. I just want to do bridal. Like, my whole career, I would hang out for a Saturday where I'd get a wedding and I'd get to style a wedding, you know, because back when I started doing hair, there were no like bridal beauty specialist. You just went to a salon to have your hair done on your wedding day, right? You didn't really get anyone where this was all they did.
This is still relatively new. A lot of people I find, like, especially where I am now, a lot of people are like, oh, you come to us? We didn't know that was even an option. People are still going to salons simply because they don't know better. They don't know that it's still an option.
It's true, right? So there was this one artist, and I still love her. I'm obsessed with her. Her name's Natalie Ann, and in Australia. And I started following her. And this was when she was still doing hair out. Like, she's huge now. She's got education. She's got a product line. She's got everything, you know, she's amazing. But when I started following her, she was still working out of her garage in her home. And she was posting pictures of her work. And I was just obsessed. I'm like, I love this girl. She's so inspiring. Her style was very, like, it was bridal, but it was very fashion forward and edgy and sexy. You know, it wasn't this sort of like predictable romantic boho like stuff that you see on Pinterest.
You're so over it.
I'm so over it. And I was like, that's me. That's what I do. That's my style. Like, that's what I want to be. And yeah, I just decided that's it. You know what? If I could do weddings on weekends, I could still be home with my kids during the week, but my husband's working. This is going to work. So I met a couple makeup artists who are Australian who got me some gigs, got me some weddings, and I started posting my work. And now that I look back at it, I'm like, oh my God.
Oh no. Is this while you were still in Australia, or was this when you had moved here?
No, this was here.
Okay.
I was living here. And I look back now and I'm like, oh geez, you know, it wasn't very good because I hadn't been working in a long time, you know, so.
And how did it feel like starting after not doing it for so long?
It's really scary. I feel like when you have a baby or you become a mother, and it's like it almost hits a restart button a little bit. It's not like you forget who you are, but.
Oh, no, you do.
Yeah, well, I guess so in a way. But I mean, I never felt like I forgot who I was. But at the same time, I felt like I lost a little confidence because you feel a bit vulnerable as a mother. There's a lot of pressure when you go back into, you know, any industry because, you know, people expect you to still have it all together. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking about your kids, you think about your husband, you think about, I've got to make sure before I go to work, I do this and this and this. And it's just a whole other level of like anxiety. So I couldn't, you know, initially focus so much on it because there was so many other things in the back of my mind. But as my kids got older, and I, of course, as I was doing more weddings and more work, you know, I refined my skills a lot better and I did some education and, you know, my confidence kind of came back, you know, so.
I think that's so important because I found the same thing, like after moving to Ottawa, having a baby, taking a year to kind of almost not doing it as often anymore, I literally forgot how to do makeup for a little while. And it wasn't until I reinvested into education, did another training course, I'm just like, oh, okay, I remember what I was doing and I found like a new style that I loved and I felt more confident again. But for a couple of phases in between, I was just like, oh, shoot, like they're booking me based on this work, but I ain't executing that work right now.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You feel a little intimidated to be able to meet, you know, the standard you used to meet because, you know, your brain kind of has to reset to be a mom for a bit and focus on that. Right. So, but yeah, it's, so that was, you know, when I guess, started my business officially, that was like about 2010. And then, you know, it just sort of, started growing. And I mean, social media has been a huge part of that. I don't think it would have the same opportunities or exposure if it wasn't for that because I work alone. And, you know, back when I started hair, you didn't really ever build a business or a name unless you worked in the right places.
But you also have to do it the right way. I find there's a lot of people out there that are either solo or working with a team, but they're not building a brand and they're not building a business. But you put yourself out there, you share, you teach information, and I think that's really what's helping it. Like, you want everyone else to learn as well and everyone else to be creating, and I think because you're genuine, that's why you're growing.
Thanks.
Other people just put out work, and it's like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but you're doing something right. You have something figured out over there.
Thanks.
So I know that you always, and when I did my training with you, you always put such an importance on the tryout. Like, this was a major deal breaker for you. It was so key in your entire bridal process. So I want to know, why do you think trials are so important when it comes to bridal work?
It's mainly because, you know, I don't think brides understand what the wedding day is really going to be like. And I mean, we do it all the time. And I'll be honest, it generally flows the same way for every wedding. I find, whether it doesn't matter who the client is, it's always that, you know, a series of things that kind of happen throughout the morning. And it's not stressful, I don't think. But if you're not organized and you haven't asked all the questions beforehand and you haven't prepared beforehand, it just turns into a nightmare. And I mean, hair and makeup, is the ultimate thing on your wedding day as a woman. It's the one thing you have the most anxiety about, and you want to feel secure that what's going on. So I feel like if you walk into a wedding and you aren't prepared on every detail or aspect of the look, there's a good chance you're going to ruin someone's wedding day, by causing them stress. I don't want my brides at any point to have to even think about what I'm doing. I want them to sit there, enjoy their mimosa, talk to their bridesmaids, and I can just do my thing. I don't even have to talk if she doesn't want to talk. So that all happens in the trial. You do all the work beforehand, and then you just turn up, and not only is your client relaxed, but you are as well, and you do your best work when you are relaxed. So it's so important. Plus, I always say too, you have an opportunity to choose your clients. Okay, I feel like we feel pressured that when we the trial really comes down to, it's about the client choosing you. Okay, I'm going to do a trial with you to see if you're the right fit, but the truth is it's a trial for us too. So it's good for you to kind of meet the client, get a feel for their personality, and it's okay if you feel like this isn't going to work, or I don't know if I can do this and make you happy. That's your opportunity to say, here's somebody else I think would, be a better fit for you. So it's just so important. And I don't understand how people, mind you, I say I don't understand, but a lot more people are starting to understand how important it is now. So
have you had to have that conversation, like actually rejecting a client, and how did you go about it?
Yeah, I have actually.
Once, twice, multiple times?
It wasn't a clean cut sort of situation. It wasn't like, oh, I did your trial and it was okay, but I'm just not feeling it. Like, it wasn't like that. It was just a sort of series of events that happened after the trial and conversations. And it was more that, I'm very clear with my requirements and the things that I need from my clients. And I understand that sometimes it doesn't always, they're looking for more flexibility on certain things, but I have to be very particular about my schedule, and because I'm also balancing my personal life as well. And it was just a situation where the communication just got not good. There was a bad vibe, and I felt like I'm going to walk into this wedding, even though we sorted everything out. I'm going to walk into this wedding, and she's not going to feel good with me being there. I'm not going to feel good being there. And I said, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't know if this business relationship is going to work. Please don't take it personally. It's just that I feel like maybe I'm not going to give my best on the wedding day. I just feel a little bit put off by the experience we've had so far. And I sort of released her, and I gave her some recommendations. And you know what? She was great. I think initially it was like, could tell that it was a little bit of a shock for her, but it's all about the way you deliver it. And I was really respectful and professional. And I think she understood. I think she realized, okay, yeah, you're right. It's going to be awkward. so
avoid the awkwardness, especially on the wedding day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't a personal thing. It's just, I just didn't think, I think I was going to walk in there and I was going to feel like, that my work wasn't appreciated or respected, and in the way I was hoping it would be. So anyway, yeah, it's awkward. It really is. And you've got to have a bit of a thick skin at times too. You don't not have a thick skin in the way that you're not gentle with your approach with people, because that's very important. You must be personable. But I think you've got to learn that no matter how you go about things, sometimes, one, you have to stay true to what you've established as how you're going to run your business, and not waver from that unless, you feel like, it's a situation where you need to do that. But you've got to learn that sometimes no matter what you do, people are not going to be happy, and you can't take it personally. I used to. And my husband has been good like that, because he's got a real thick skin when it comes to business, and he's helped me sort of become a little bit more like, yeah, well, that sucked. I didn't like that. But you know what? There's a lot of other people out there who appreciate my work or I like working with. So I'm good.
And if you had a deposit, you would return the deposit, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Anytime there's a situation where I've made that decision and they've placed a deposit already, absolutely. Yeah.
What does your hubby do?
He's in pharmaceutical sales.
Okay.
Yeah,
Definitely
he's a
need thick skin
national.
for that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's in charge of training a lot of the Canadian reps for the company that he works for. So.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what should the point of the trial be? Like, what is the purpose of the trial? Why do you go through the hassle of making sure everybody has one?
All right. Well, the point of the trial is to sit down, obviously get to know the client, build a little bit of a relationship, because it's usually the first, if they haven't secured you already, they want to do a trial before that. You're meeting them kind of early on. It's the beginning of your journey together. So you're going to get a really good vibe, or a bad vibe, and you're going to know whether it's going to work, first of all. Second of all, it's important to make sure that you have time to prepare to give them the look that they want. And you can sit down and you can really customize the style that they want, to make sure that not only you're giving them something that they want, but you're also giving them suggestions and a little bit of you in there as well. Like often my clients will bring a picture of something that they want, but I always make a little suggestion. I'll say, well, how about we do that, but we do it like this, or we add this, and you can't really do that on a wedding day because you need the time to be able to gather resources, whether it's extensions or headpieces or things like that. And majority of the time my clients are sort of sent off on a little bit of a shopping venture to find things to add to their look. So it's really vital that you do it, because that's where your best work is, going to be. It's all about preparation. And I think that,
I love trials because I find a lot of times when I do the trial and then I take a photo, I have the time to recap on it and see what can be changed after. Because sometimes the client's happy with it, but you're not happy with it, and it gives you the opportunity to change it and tweak it as well for the wedding day.
True. Yeah, absolutely.
So if you were to narrow down just some key pieces of information that you should get from the trial that will make or break the entire wedding for you, like what is something that other artists should be fishing for?
So you want to ask them, first of all, questions about their hair. Does their hair normally hold curl well? Do they find it difficult to get volume out of their hair? Things like that, because even though you might have a knowledge on their hair and feel their hair, they know best when it comes to their hair's ability to hold curl. And usually people are requesting looks that need to hold up all day. So that's one of the first things. You want to make sure that you really establish what the hair will do and what it won't do. And then be honest and say, listen, your hair isn't going to do this. So these are the looks we can do. So very important to be honest about their hair and what it will do and what it won't do. That's the number one thing. The second thing is you really want to get them to show you every element of their wedding, if possible, whether it be their color scheme, the theme, if there's a theme, their wedding dress, of course, any accessories. Usually brides will have a Pinterest board or, 1,000 pictures in their phone of everything from their wedding. I always get my girls to pull that up because it tells a story about their vision for their wedding. And then the great thing about that is if they've picked a style that doesn't necessarily work with it, you're able to make a suggestion. You're able to say, that boho braided updo is beautiful, but you're wearing a very classic princess style gown. We should do this instead. So get your clients to give you as much information as possible about their wedding and their look and their theme. Because what's great is that you want to stand out as an artist, not just as someone who can just put a hairstyle on someone. And an artist really cares and is intentional about the process. So yes. So number 2 would be gathering as much information as possible to formulate an idea for their hair. And number 3, I'm going to give them 3.
Yeah.
Trying to be specific because I could go on forever. 3 would be getting an idea of the looks for the rest of the bridal party. I want to kind of establish something or an idea of what everyone else is going to have. A lot of artists will skip that because I think they see the bride being more of the priority when it comes to time. And that is true, obviously.
That's a really good one, though.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's difficult when you're only given so much time. I do fewer weddings, so then I allow myself more time to, put more energy into each wedding that I do. But I understand for some artists, they're working very fast. They have a lot of clients. They don't necessarily have the time to do that with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But, I really believe in the quality over quantity thing. I know I say that all the time, but I really believe it. I think that, the best thing is when you can get these professional photos back from a wedding and everyone looks amazing. You know what I mean? And there is this sort of like harmony of looks that are going on, not necessarily everyone having the same style. I mean, I love that, but everybody looking very intentional with their looks. So I do sit down with my brides once we've done their look and I say, okay, here's what I'm thinking for the bridal party. What do you think of these ideas? And just before their wedding, I always send out my final confirmation and I give them a mood board of ideas so that on the wedding day, the girls pick it up and they have a selection of styles to choose from. It keeps things simple as well, because often you might end up wasting time on the wedding morning with a bridesmaid who's not sure what she wants and she's looking everywhere, or she's getting an airdrop picture from someone, or she's that sort of thing. So if I bring up a board and there's like maybe 9 hairstyles on there, a mix of different things, it just makes it so much faster. And they go, oh yeah, I really like that one. That's good. So generally my brides will tell me, okay, I know this bridesmaid wants a half up, this one wants it down. I always let them choose the type of hairstyle that they want, but then I define the texture and the detail and the theme so that, one, it looks really good with the bride. It doesn't compete with her look, or it's not the same as her look. And then it also has this beautiful continuity of looks going on in the bridal party. So number 3 would absolutely be, don't forget your bridal party.
I think that is brilliant. So pretty much for the bride, you tell them to have a Pinterest board ready ahead of time for the trial, but for the bridesmaids, you custom design a Pinterest board for each wedding based on the bride's look. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even make it that complicated. My brides will always have pictures on their phone. They don't even have to have a Pinterest board. Some do, some don't. I find these days most of them are screenshotting things off Instagram and keeping it, they'll have a bridal album on their phone. So anything that's really screenshots of stuff is fine. And then with the bridal party, I usually just make a collage of looks. I have an app that I love using, and I've always got albums on my iPad of hair up, half up, and hair down looks that are current. Okay, another really important thing too is if you have hair inspirations to show your clients, update them. Like maybe get rid of some of the looks that are from like 10 years ago and start looking around on social media for fresh looks, and put those in your phone, especially if they're looks you want to do, like create. I do that all the time. I only show my clients styles that I know I can do well and that I like doing. So, and then from those pictures that I have already in my phone, I'll create a board. And it's very quick, very easy. It really doesn't take any time at all. Yeah. And then I send that off. So, and it's great. It works so well. And you turn up on the wedding day. There's very little conversation other than just fun. There's no, issues on what are we doing? Did I bring this in my kit? Everything flows beautifully. And ever since I started doing that, I've had the best mornings on my wedding mornings. So yeah.
Which is what everyone wants. No, that's brilliant. I love that idea. I think a lot of people are going to start implementing that for sure.
Cool.
So what happens if you have a bride who's totally indecisive? So you spent an hour and a half, 2 hours on the trial. She's looking in the mirror. She kind of she doesn't completely look happy, but she doesn't really know what she wants. She's asking you to switch a bang piece here, or maybe drop a second half over here. And then you look at the clock and realize, oh my God, it's been 3 hours. We've tried 3 different variations of this look. What do you do then? Do you end it? Do you still try to please her?
I don't usually let my clients leave until we've got something. And that's not necessarily meaning we found it, because a lot of the times, you know, the few styles that we'll do, we've at least confirmed some of the things we like and some of the things we don't. So I always say to my brides, listen, why don't you get back to me and let me know what you think? Have a look around for some other inspiration, send them my way. I'll give you my opinion. But ultimately, they don't leave, and I will stay with them forever, however long I need them to be there, until I feel like I've got enough information where I think I can turn up on the wedding day and we'll be okay. If we're in that stage of, oh, I really don't know, we haven't really found anything, I usually always focus on the front of the hair. I know that sounds funny. Majority of the time, the back of the hair is pretty easy. I feel like it comes together pretty well, but the front of the hair is always a very personal thing, and it always tends to be the one area that people just can't seem to feel 100% on. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, at least with my experience, that's what happens. So usually what I do is I ask them, well, how do you style your hair on your face? How do you like it around your face? And I'll spend a little bit more time with them on that. And, we'll come to a conclusion. I actually have an album of pictures of just the front of hairstyles. Because depending on what style it is at the back, you could pretty much put any front on any hairstyle.
That is so smart.
Yeah. Well, because a lot of pictures that you find online are the back of the hair. Even my hairstyles. If you go on my Instagram, all my hairstyles are the back of people's heads.
Or at most the side. That's about it. And even then,
maybe profile. Yeah. So, a lot of the time clients won't have pictures of the front, and they always say, oh, I want to see the front. So I find more often than not, if we haven't really found a true, we're 100% on every aspect of style, it's always the front of the hair. So I would suggest to artists, go online and just screenshot or save pictures of different looks from the front. Maybe some with, more volume around the face, maybe more wispiness, slick back off the face, things where clients can visualize what they're going to look like from the front. And usually when I've nailed that down, we're fine. We're good. But I will tell you that it's rare that happens if you've done all of the detail talking beforehand. I rarely get to the end and it's not what they're looking for, because I did all of the discovering beforehand. I did all of the research beforehand when we sat down, and I looked at their theme and their, dress, and we talked about their hair texture. Usually when I get to the end, it all falls into place because I did the hard work first.
So if anybody is listening and this is an issue that they're having, they need to go back about 5 minutes ago and re-listen to those 3 points, because that will be your gold right there.
Exactly. That's actually a really great point. Try to focus when they're talking to you in the beginning and capture certain keywords that they're using. And then, when they get stuck, you can refer back to those and say, okay, remember when you said you really liked more volume around the face? That's sort of what we were trying to achieve. And, it sort of refreshes their memory, and they realize, because it's very easy to kind of lose track of the vision when you've got so many ideas going on.
Definitely. I'm one of those girls that come in with 20 ideas, and I'm just like, okay, wait, can we put these all together? People hate me for that. Yeah. So when you go over time, do you charge them extra for that time, or do you just take it upon yourself?
I do. If it's a situation where I wasn't able to give them, I wasn't able to deliver on what I said I would, then I don't. But if it's, I feel like we've already found what we're looking for and we're okay, but they just want to try something else, or if I get that sense that they're just taking up my time and we don't need to, then I do charge them more.
And that's something that's really easy to feel out. Easily what direction that is.
That's true. Yeah.
So what if you've done this trial, it's different trial, you had a successful trial, it's a regular hour and a half, 2 hour trial, and you did this beautiful updo, the bride loved it, and on the wedding day she shows you a downdo, say it's a boho down braid. Do you convince her into the look that you originally did, or?
It does happen, and I hate it. I hate it. But I get it. Because you know what? That is me. I'm the same. I would just be like, you know what? Yeah, it happens a lot. And but generally they would have started talking about it beforehand. They would have already mentioned at the trial, I am sort of considering this look. I don't know yet. Maybe we should do a restyle at the reception. Or they'll email me and say, they never really just drop it on me on the day of the wedding, because I think for most women, or brides especially, they don't like to not be organized, majority of them. So they want to make sure you're turning up with everything that you need. So, I mean, it is rare that it's literally the wedding day that they've changed the look. I usually get a heads up. It's a little bit more work for me, because it's like I have to pack and prepare to suit 2 different looks that we may need extensions, we may need a filler, but no, it happens, and it's okay.
Okay, so you deal with it.
I deal with it.
Client's always right.
Yeah, it's true.
So what about brides that are coming in from overseas, or they just don't have a trial? Like they're booking you 2 weeks before the wedding, or they're arriving a week before the wedding. They love you, they love your work, but they don't have time to do a trial.
Totally get it. Majority of the time, brides that are doing that, they are usually pretty easygoing. And like you said, they're sort of like, you know what? I've seen your work. This is what I want. They'll send me pictures of their hair. We'll kind of almost do like a virtual trial over the net and that sort of thing. I mean, in that situation, it's very difficult. And I have had clients like that. But I just make sure I do lots of, emailing, and we converse quite a lot beforehand so that I get a good idea of what we're going to do on the day. And then in some cases too, I'll just tell them, if I'm not really sure, let's start just a bit earlier so that I can sit down with you. We can have a quick chat.
Going off topic here, if you had to average out how long your email trails are with any individual bride, how long do you think they usually are?
Would you say from beginning to end?
From beginning to end, from first contact to the wedding. I know it's a tricky one.
Well, no, see, because some of it's also you got to draft up quotes, then you've got to change
all of it counts.
So per client,
on average.
Oh gosh,
or a range.
I couldn't even count.
Yeah, the only ones that stick in my head, like I know there were some that are like 50 and 60, and then there's some that are like 28, and I'm like, are these high? Are these normal? I've always wondered that.
Yeah. I really honestly couldn't give you a very good, answer on that. It's just
all good.
There's a lot. I try to, you know what I do? Here's a little tip too. I try to make it very fast as possible by drafting up emails and keeping them in my drafting file of things I know that I'm going to need to ask at some point, or confirmation emails on certain things. It's already there. I just have to fill in the customized areas, names and stuff like that. That saves me so much time. It's like my draft file is huge.
I'd love Tave for that. I don't know if you ever heard of Tave. There's other ones like Honeybooks and 17 Hats, but Tave is freaking amazing. You can automate everything. I think I only use like 10% of the power that it has, and it's already made my life easier. Like all those drafts, you can just like customize it. I'll send you the link afterward. But it's great. Yeah. It takes a lot of struggle to set it up, and it might even be better to like hire somebody to set it up for you. But once it's going, everything is one click. Everything. And
I love that.
Payment details, everything is completely automated. It's amazing. It's so good.
Great.
And I'm barely using it. Yeah, it's so good. So do you build in the cost of the trial into your bridal package, or is it additional fee?
It used to be like an additional fee, but because now it's mandatory, it's built into my package.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And now you've been doing hair for years and years and years, since you were like 10 years old. Well, okay, your first co-op position, that means you're a master now, right? So when you go to work, you go to a gig, you don't get stressed out during a style, you don't think twice, someone shows you a picture, you show up, and you can instantly create it, right?
No. At weddings, I can. Weddings are like, weddings are relatively easy compared to other gigs, to be honest. I learned that like the hard way in the last few years, where I sort of started to explore in the editorial world a little bit more and get experimental with collaborations and things like that. Bridal, you get to dictate how much time that you spend on each person, and you give yourself the time you need. Whereas with some other jobs, you know, you think you're going to get this amount of time, but the truth is you don't. And I think my biggest anxiety, I do hate not being prepared, and I hate it not being perfect, especially if it's photographic work. I have serious anxiety because hair is very hard to edit. You literally it has to be perfect. And if it's not, I don't want it published. I don't want it out there because I need everything to be perfect. So when you're not given enough time and you turn up to something, and I mean, you have to go with the flow. I guess maybe this is something that I've got to grow in. If you were to ask me that, I've got to learn to let go of some things and not be too ambitious with my plans, because I'm like, right, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to change it into this, and then I turn up with all this stuff ready to go, and just the flow of the day isn't going that way, and you just have to be able to create something very fast.
Yeah.
So
20 minutes between changes sometimes. You're like, what? True. 20 minutes?
Yeah.
What?
Exactly. And I've done shoots where I'm like, I was so looking forward to this. This was going to be amazing. And none of the looks are what I was looking for and what I wanted to do, because we didn't have enough time.
Yeah. I think every artist can relate to that 100%.
Yeah. So actually bridal gives me less anxiety.
So what do you do when you do get stressed? Like, say you're doing a bridal look, and you do start to get stressed out, like something just isn't working. Like, how do you regain your composure? Like, what do you do? What's your thought process?
I think I've got to learn to, like, I'm not very good at, I mean, I don't freak out or anything, but I definitely kind of make it known because I care so much. Aww. And people can tell when I'm like, you know, oh, it's just not working. And it depends who you're working with. You know, good friends with Gassia Laranov of Blush and Balm, and we did a shoot together recently. And I love her because she knows me, and she knows we're both perfectionists when it comes to what we do. And she totally gets it with me when I will be doing a shoot and I'm just like huffing and puffing and I'm like, it's not working. And she's like, okay. And she's like, calms me down. And she's like, why don't we stop? Why don't you just change it? Just change it. Take your time. We'll change it. You'll be fine. I'm like, yes. Okay. So I try to kind of gather my thoughts, or if it's just not working, I just take it out and I say, look, I'm sorry. It's just going to look terrible. Give me like 15 minutes. I'll put something together. And then, you know, I go on my phone and I'm looking for alternative options, and, you know, but I don't like feeling that way. That's for sure. I really like to walk in and, you know.
I think everyone would love to walk in and execute a bomb style every single time without any of the anxiety, right?
Yeah.
But it's great that you just don't stick in 1,000 bobby pins and be like, all right, I tried, here you go, this is it.
Yeah.
Because I know people would do that as well, right? They don't want to start over. They just want to just do what they can and not deal with the struggle of it. So are you still practicing? Like, do you still practice during a week?
Yeah. Not
often?
recently. I haven't. Recently, I haven't had much time. Well, I did a little bit of practice and prep before the workshop because I wanted to make sure that I could actually do all the styles in the right amount of time. But I've been really wanting to try some new things that I've been like just meditating on, like new styles I found, inspired by recently, and I just haven't had a chance. I rarely actually get an opportunity to play around with my mannequin and try stuff. Except for when my classes are running. Usually when the students are recreating looks, sometimes I'll play around and I'll show them different versions, like you remember in my class.
I remember that. You're on the side, you're like, you can also do this, or like check out this.
Yeah.
And you light up when you do it too. So you can tell that you really enjoy it. So it's mainly new styles, and timing is what you kind of focus on whenever you get time to practice then, right?
Yeah, I'd say that.
And then what should a new stylist be focusing on during their practice sessions when they're starting?
Well, I mean, if there's areas of hairstyling you struggle with, it's always got to be, as much as sometimes it can be boring, you really should perfect those in your practice time, because you just don't know when a client is going to ask for that.
So do the stuff that's hard. Don't just keep redoing what you know how to do already.
Yeah, which is tempting. You know, it's tempting to try and play around with styles you really want to do, but if there's areas that you haven't perfected, like maybe vintage waves or something that you just have never really been able to do perfectly on a client, do it on a mannequin, because you can take your time. You can really start to think more about the process. It's very hard to do that on a client when you've got, 45 minutes. So yeah, those areas that you kind of have anxiety about, that's what you need to practice in your quiet time.
Totally makes sense. So I know I've taken up a ton of your time. Thank you so much
That's
for chatting
okay.
with me.
This was fun.
This was so much fun. I love this. I absolutely adore your work. It's just like, it's bridal, but it has fashion elements to it. I didn't know you competed, but now that you've told me, I see that in your work. And it's always like soft and billowy is the word that you used to look, and everything, even if it's chic, it still represents all of that, and I love that.
Thanks.
It's so pretty. So let everyone know where they can find you and where they can get some inspo for their Pinterest boards.
Okay, so you can follow me on Instagram at Bridal Hair Couture by Katie, and keep an eye out for my new website too. It's already there, but the new one.
Rebrand.
Yeah, the rebranding. It'll be in maybe 2 weeks or so. It should be up and running.
By the time this episode releases, the rebrand and the new website will already be up. So we'll link that in the show notes as well. No, it totally will, because this is going to take a couple of weeks. I'm slow. Don't expect this to go up tomorrow. Progress, not perfection, right?
That's true. Thank you so much, Neela.
Thank
You're
you.
sweetheart.
Have a good night, love.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Bye. That was incredible, right? There are so many keynotes, I cannot even recap them all for you right now, but I have included them in the show notes on the blog. See you next time.